So, Dick, following on from, I know ABC News, the big American broadcaster, contacted you for your views and analysis on the sinking of the Bayesian. And we're going to follow up with that today.
Yeah, which I thought it was perhaps a good idea for us to put a video out because although it was, I think, about 30 minutes, the interview, it got cut to about 40 seconds. Understandably, they're just interested in very much the bullet points. But I think there's quite a lot to this, and I think really it's well worth trying to understand a little bit more in the background of what caused this and the circumstances and so forth. So that's why I thought we'd do this, Dick.
Okay, fine. And certainly with your experience, more than 250,000 miles offshore sailing, which is a lot of sailing.
Yeah.
You've had a lot of input into the design of your own yachts, Kraken Yachts, based on your experience. So
yeah. I mean, Kraken is really formed, or the design of Krakens is really formed from those experiences and from a huge variety of experience of unusual or rather, extreme weather circumstances. Yeah. This, however, was an even more extreme and was referred to as freak weather event, which is a downburst, a very unusual event, and also, should be said, unforecastable, so I'm told. And why I wanted to speak out about it really is, within 3 hours, the president or CEO of Perini Navi, the builders, Italian super yacht builders, came out with this extraordinary statement that this yacht was unsinkable, which in itself is an absolutely ludicrous concept, because yes, you can do everything to de-risk the boat to the highest of levels, what we do at Kraken. I don't agree that this boat was de-risked to the level which
we'll come on to.
Which we'll come on to. I don't believe that it was de-risked, but immediately I heard that, I thought, hello, somebody's being lined up to be a scapegoat here. Yeah. And the person being lined up to be a scapegoat is undoubtedly the skipper and the crew. And I really think that is unfair. I did say that is the bit they retained on ABC News. Yeah, okay. And I said, and I maintain and still believe that I don't think there is one skipper, given that set of circumstances, I don't think there is one skipper anywhere in the world that would have done anything fundamentally different from that which the skipper did do. And to say that he is at fault, or to even imply that he is at fault, I think is wrong and actually ludicrous. Fair enough. So really that's the concept
I think
that I want to discuss.
Okay.
What was the problem?
Yeah. It's perhaps a good idea to say at the outset, we don't know what happened, but we're doing more, you are doing more than taking an educated guess, because this is not a guess, this is your experience, and you've analysed what you can and what we can from what's already out there, right? Yeah,
Dick, I'd agree that this discussion at this stage is to some extent speculative. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. Mm-hmm. And until we actually know the outcome of the investigation that is carried out, we won't be sure. No. But that's going to take a long time. Yeah. And I felt that somebody should speak out for the captain and the crew from the point of view of, I've been an amateur captain and regularly our crew. And I just felt that there should be some elements of this pointed out to the public that they may otherwise not be aware of.
We ought to say at this stage, though, Dick, that the three crew of the Bayesian are under investigation for suspected multiple, and this is an interesting phrase, negligent manslaughter, which I find quite an interesting phrase. I mean, is there such a thing as a due diligence manslaughter? It seems a really bizarre phrase, but that's Italian law. But we need to say that, I think.
Well, and that's I'm going to say that's one of the things that concerns me in all of this, which is that this is a very significant flagship company,
Yeah.
flagship Italian company,
Right.
and this accident happened in Italian waters.
Yeah.
So I just kind of hope there's no sort of a cover-up goes on,
No.
and that, you know, perhaps the more that gets out there in understanding, or rather as questions, perhaps the more that goes out there, perhaps the greater propensity there may be for a full and thorough investigation.
Yeah.
And that's where really I come
Yeah.
from, because I think there were the big key here is seaworthiness. You know, and for me and for Kraken, it's all about seaworthiness and safety at sea.
So
And
on
then-
that point, Dick, should we just? We know that's your standpoint with Kraken. Has always been safety has been paramount.
It's 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah. So we ought really just to discuss the you know, this boat itself. It's 56 meters long, and yet it had a 72 meter tall mast. Why is that?
Well,
You know? I mean, does it need something?
no. Being honest and being kind of, I suppose, what would I say? Being quite blunt about it. This is the 200-foot mast is all about who's got the biggest dick.
Really?
That's what this is actually about.
Right.
You don't.
So
The other sister ships to this, I understand, don't have a single sloop mast,
No.
which
No,
was
catch rigged, I
at
believe.
one point the tallest mast in the world.
Yeah.
At one point, which is kind of, I believe, to be the motivation and the big sales point. Hey, look, you've got the biggest mast in the world, and that's why it's like the biggest dick in the world, biggest dick competition. But was it necessary? I think it was highly undesirable. Not only wasn't it necessary, and the other sister ships to this, I believe, do have a schooner or ketch rigs.
Yeah.
And that would be a sensible thing to do, because you're reducing the sail area, you're improving the righting moment
Right.
all of the time that you do that. And here comes to the key crux, I think, of from everything I've been able to read and understand about this. The key crux of this, there are, in my view, or seem to be, I'm going to caveat that because the investigations, you know, obviously going into it. But the three key issues are that it had an incredibly low angle of vanishing stability, this boat. And that's to explain to everyone, that's the point at which the boat heels over
Right.
and keeps going,
Right.
right? That was with the keel up, which is another subject, was 73 degrees.
Okay.
To put that in context, the angle of vanishing stability of a Kraken 58, that's considerably smaller than that boat, is in fact 152 degrees.
Wow.
So just take that. Means
Twice.
it double, yeah. But it means this boat couldn't even be knocked down flat
Right.
without it continuing
To carry on.
to capsize.
Yeah.
Second, really fundamental point is that, again, if what we are being able to see reported in the media is correct, the critical issue and a very big Achilles heel in my mind is that the flooding angle was actually 45 degrees. That's incredibly low. It means that when the boat is heeled over at 45 degrees, which, by the way, isn't unusual, especially in open ocean and in heavy weather, at 45 degrees, this boat's going to start flooding.
That's astonishing.
And, you know, we're going to show a close-up here of how this occurs, or how the design fault has enabled that incredibly low down flooding angle to be designed in. And it's all about accommodation, and it's all about guest pleasure, and it's all about the comforts, but it's not about seamanship.
No. Well, I mean, again, what we've been looking, as you say, on the internet and various other places, and one of the things that hit me really in the face, struck me straight away, was that this boat won an award, not for seamanship, not for sailing ability, but for best exterior styling. This was under the International Super Yacht Society Award.
Yeah. Philip, one of the directors of Kraken Yachts, he said to me, well, he said it's like taking a gin palace into a storm and then wondering why it sank. Right. And it really is. Let's come back on this down flooding angle, because it's so critical. This is the point at that angle, 45 degrees, when the boat is going to start flooding and filling. Wow. Why and how? Because the side decks were cut away to allow convenient steps down into the aft deck area, which was the guests' lounging area. Okay. The third element is that this boat had large, what can be described as patio doors. And from reports that I've read, the propensity for those doors to open when the boat is at sea and sailing at an angle was such that the doors would open of their own volition and had to be locked in a position, open or closed. Otherwise, they're going to slide open. There's no way would those doors, or would anybody have expected those doors to need to be locked or dogged while she was at anchor. So then you've got, the triple whammy. You've got the tenderness of the boat.
From the big mast?
Yeah. From the big mast, it's not all of it,
no.
but from the angle of vanishing stability, right. That can be understood. The righting moment of this boat was quite a tender boat.
Okay.
She gets knocked over, not even as far as the AVS will allow, 73 degrees right. with the keel up, but to 45 degrees, and now she's going to start flooding over the bulwarks, straight into this cascade coming down these steps, which we can show you, and then into the aft deck area. But then, with the doors sliding open, all of that water goes straight into the saloon. And where was the accommodation area of the guests? Directly annexed to that saloon area, and down a further set of steps.
From the saloon, right.
So those poor souls, in realising that there was something wrong, as they came out of their cabins, would have been confronted by a torrent of water, Niagara Falls, coming down the stairs from the saloon. And there's no way they could have got out. And so that's, as I say, I'm going to caveat all that by saying that this is my opinion of what's most likely happened. There's other theories that the garage doors at the stern were potentially left open. It seems from early divers inspection that wasn't the case, but hey, let's let the investigation come to that. But those areas were in fact divided from the interior by waterproof bulkheads through which there were waterproof access doors, and potentially they could have been left open as well. But if you look at that and you look at what people in the surrounding areas saw, they saw this boat suddenly heel over with this dreadful downburst, and then it's gone. It's gone, bang, it's gone in seconds or minutes anyway. And it's understandable, given all of these design features that we're just talking about. It's really understandable how that could have happened. And to put it into context, and come back to the down flooding, because to me, this is the number one.
Yeah.
The down flooding angle of a Kraken 58 is 99 degrees. So it can be laying past flat in the water, and it's still not got water egress into the main body of the boat to below deck.
Into the hull at all. Yeah.
No. And even if that happens, actually it takes 5 seconds to slide up the companionway, slide back the companionway, top and close off down below completely.
Yeah.
I mean, the person that's in the cockpit that's doing can be done from inside or outside. What you would hope there would be time to do is to quickly go down below, it's a couple of seconds, pull up, shut, and then wait for obviously the rest of the events that created by the weather situation to pass. But in the circumstance here, with there's no companionway, as far as I know. There's no companionway to slide up and lock off. There are these patio doors, which, as we understood, had a propensity to open.
Yeah.
So you've got a lethal cocktail there of three things.
It's what seems, through talking to you, and you've pointed out this picture of this boat, and what seems quite horrifying, really, are these two wells each side of the aft of the coach roof, for want of a better expression, the deck level, the accommodation level. These wells, which is what they are at deck level.
Well, I just showed you the picture, didn't I, of it,
once
and
I
you
saw
were
it,
astonished.
I was astonished.
It's
It's
crazy.
Down, five steps going down.
Yeah, but what you've normally got
from the deck.
What you've normally got the bulwark.
Yeah.
Now the boat's heeled over past that. You've got the side deck.
Yeah.
Now go past that. You've got the cockpit sides.
Coamings, yeah.
The coamings.
Yeah.
Right? And the water's then got to get over that and get to the point which it can cross the companionway threshold, which is raised, fixed and raised, and then below. But you haven't got any of that. You've got tips over a bit on its side. Niagara Falls comes down into the aft deck area, into these wells, and then runs straight through into the interior of the boat. I mean, it's, as I say, there might be another explanation.
Yeah.
But whether there's another explanation or there isn't, that's not good seaworthiness. That's not good. That's not safety. And I want to just make this point, I think it is very unlikely that the hapless owners, the people, and for this circumstances that died. I know the boat was owned by technically owned by Mike Lynch's wife, but those hapless owners and guests, I'm sure, would be completely unsuspecting of that Achilles heel. I think because the first question we ask and the customers ask us is, or tell us, I should say, the first point that customers tell us, they come to Kraken because seaworthiness and safety at sea is the first and major factor. That's where the start. But for me, it's where it all starts. Who should be going to sea in a boat that has got vulnerabilities that could otherwise be removed? That's the whole basis of Kraken. Yeah. And then to see this designed in,
it is quite remarkable.
It's astonishing, eh?
It is astonishing because those wells, that's what they are. They're even shaped, they're round wells. They're at deck level, as you say. There's nothing to prevent any water coming on the deck. A teak-laid deck, which is supposed to have water on it, there's a hole there. It's like having a scupper inboard, leading water inboard.
Yeah, it is. It is
just
exactly
astonishing.
It is. It is. It is astonishing.
There's no way out of that.
No, I'm afraid. It's just a dreadful
An eyewitness apparently saw her. She was, and because we know it happened at night, there is a sort of shaky webcam showing that there was quite a strong breeze and driving rain, and she's sitting there.
Yeah.
Then suddenly this is from the downburst, the water from the cloud. She goes over to 45 degrees, hangs there for a little while, and then goes over. Now I think that at that point these wells maybe are filling up.
That's exactly what I think occurred, and it's probably worth just discussing briefly the weather circumstances because there was a criticism that I saw. A commentator said, "Oh well, when the weather got when the weather started to affect the boat seriously, what the skipper should have done is got everybody up on deck, got them in their life jackets prepared." Well, you can't forecast a downburst.
No.
There's a difference between a bit of bad weather at sea. And to get that in context, from what I understand is reported, immediately prior, there was about 20 knots of wind and it was raining hard and so forth. But that is not a precursor in most circumstances. Out of a million times, that is not the precursor for this downburst, which, as I said, is believed to be an unforecasted, very rare weather event, which, by the way, has taken airline planes out of the sky. You mean that's how unforecasted this is, right? And that has suddenly hit them. But let's get in context. First and foremost, 20 knots of wind offshore. As you know, it was a wind that was coming off the shore. So they're sitting in fairly protected waters, not any big wave circumstances. And how horrendous is 20 knots? I sailed recently back from Santorini and stopped to an island on the way called Anafi. The Meltemi was blowing, and there was quite an unusual circumstances created by the Meltemi and the shape of the island. And we anchored in 50 knots of wind. It was 50 knots of wind. I mean, all right, a Kraken has very heavy ground tackle and, heavy anchor and stuff. But, that's not really outrageous and unusual because you are in the protection of the wind coming off the land.
Yeah.
So what this guy is supposed to have done, as far as this commentator that I watched was concerned, is that with 20 knots of wind and raining, he's supposed to have understood that there was a potential for a downburst to happen. He's supposed to have got all the crew and the guests all up in their pajamas, put life jackets on, and said, "Hang on a minute, I think there might be a downburst." I mean, come on, he's going to get sacked next morning for that.
Yeah,
there's no way, and it's worth also entering into perhaps what is another factor of this, in my opinion, which is the illusory world that the super rich believe can be created for them by the people around them. And it's not the world that any of us normally live in. On land, maybe that's possible, that all of these accommodations can be given.
You could have a huge tower in Dubai,
Yeah,
and it ain't going to fall down.
Yeah. But at sea, the sea's the governor. That's who's in charge at sea, and all of those illusions will be shattered by the ruling body, which is the sea. And that's where the absolute respect has to go. And you have to understand that you are there at the behest of the weather and the sea, and the seaworthiness of your boat then becomes absolutely premier. And in my, can you just imagine? Let's suppose he doesn't get sacked the first night he does it. Oh, okay, next time it's raining, there's 20 knots of wind. That's going to happen all the time, by the way.
Yeah.
Right? Oh, he's going to get them up again, and he's going to get them up again, and he's going to... I mean, come on, it's not going to happen.
No.
I doubt, and it'll be interesting to hear what the survivors do say, I doubt that the guests and the owner will have even participated in an emergency drill.
Yeah.
It's not normal. You've got to understand this world where, they are treated as gods.
Yeah.
They are all... I knew one guy...
You don't wake up Cleopatra unless you...
Listen, I knew one guy was a super yacht captain, and he told me, unbelievably, the wife of the owner would only bath in Evian. Completely true story. Yeah. And they had to go and get gallons and gallons and gallons of Evian. I knew of another guy, Dick, that sent a helicopter pilot that he had on the boat to get a newspaper every morning. I mean, this is not normal stuff, eh? So all of a sudden, the realities that really exist at sea would think they're inured from that as well, but they're not.
No.
That's just a completely different game where it is Mother Nature that's in charge.
Yeah, I mean, this boat with its design awards would have added to that sort of delusionary capacity.
Yeah, I mean,
these come on board. It's like being in the Ritz, isn't it? It's got everything, all the
more so. It's like being in the Ritz and being the only occupant,
Yeah.
and everybody is running around at your beck and call. That's exactly what it's like. I mean, I don't know if you, I think you might have found this out actually. You mentioned this before we started to film. This boat was privately owned and she wasn't chartered. But the cost of chartering that boat, you told me just now, was $250,000 a week. Euros, even more.
Yeah.
It's nearly nearly $300,000 a week. I mean, goodness me. I mean, this is
It's like somebody in the normal world saying, right, I'll tell you what, I'll sell my house. I'm going to have a week on that boat.
Exactly right. That's the real world that we're all living in.
Getting quickly back though to the crew, and one of the reasons that you said it was mooted that they should have had an emergency drill and got everybody up, etc., etc. But what's interesting, and one of the things I did read, which seems to make sense, because the crew did survive, apart from the chef who was turned in. Now he wouldn't have been involved in this. What the crew were doing was packing away cushions, deck chairs, all the nice stuff that they have on a sunny day.
Yeah.
So that's how urgent it was. It wasn't urgent.
No,
20, because it was raining.
let's get this in context. 20 knots of wind, sitting in an anchorage off of Sicily, in a sheltered anchorage and off sea. And there was dozens of other boats around them. This wasn't... there's another thing I forgot to mention. I heard another commentator say what he should have done is dropped the keel, started the engine, and motored in to the marina or the port. Oh, hang on, there's a little bit of a problem with that, because this keel dropped 10 metres, 9.8 metres. So he isn't going to be able to go to a port with this keel down. So that's a stupid statement from the get-go. But what do you think there is in this area of the Mediterranean? You think there's marinas sitting there with huge empty berths for a 56-metre super yacht? This is nearly a ship.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? And so, and all he did, and all the time he had to do all of this was apparently start to finish of the extreme event. Start to finish was 12 minutes.
Yeah.
That's not even time probably to drop the keel, let alone start the engine,
let
alone get the anchor up, let alone go. And this is what's annoying.
Yeah.
To watch this baying, what's the word? To watch these baying hounds looking for somebody's blood.
Culpability, that's always
looking to absolve the designers and the builders of this boat from responsibility, which I believe, as I said, unless proven otherwise, I believe they have.
So, Dick, from what you've read and from your lengthy experience offshore, from designing your own boats, now selling very successfully, is it possible for you to say at this stage who do you think is responsible for this event, if anybody?
Well, let's caveat that by saying again, which I want to keep repeating, if what we understand so far turns out to be true, and if there is no other element that we don't yet understand, and for me it's hard to believe there could be, I think there are in fact 201 people responsible for this.
All right. That's a lot of people.
I'll tell you.
Spreading the risk.
The 201 is the Perini Navi president of the time of this boat's build, because I don't believe this boat should have been built with this enormous mast and these other vulnerabilities. Again, if what's proven to be true comes out, if what I believe is proven to be true. The other 200, Dick, I'm afraid, are the presidents, the prime ministers and the leaders of the 200 major governments around the world that simply haven't done enough to combat climate change and global warming, which you know from me there's no question about, although people constantly want to try and question it. And should, because these weather events, these freak, as they're referred to, are becoming much more commonplace than ever that they used to be. And so for me, and for Kraken, and for everything we're about, that's where our focus is. Try and negate as many of those risks to the crew and to and to everybody that sails on her on a Kraken yacht, to try and remove or take them down to the absolute minimum. That's what we're all about. And I don't think this boat, that was the focus of this boat. I think the focus of this boat was, to put it another way, a very clear demonstration of somebody's wealth and their desire to show it off. You know, I'm not being disparaged on any of the people that lost their lives on this, but you've got to understand what was the motivation to build a boat like this, or to even have a boat like this. I mean, 56 metres long. I don't know, probably I think the crew was 15 or 16 or 17 people. You know, that's an awful lot of lackeys running around doing your bidding. And in this particular circumstance, I just think that the considerations, the seaworthiness considerations, were put way down the pecking line. That's really what I think. So, yeah, that's my viewpoint. Yeah. And I really do hope that the howling hounds will stop trying to look for a very simple person to blame in the skipper. I'm sure he'll be exonerated. I feel sure he'll be exonerated.
I feel he should be. I'm quite pleased to note that the Marine Accident Investigation Branch, the UK body, sort of a
because she was a UK registered boat, wasn't
they're
she?
involved in this, and I think that we can rely on them as being pretty straight.
Yeah.
Which is a
I mean, I don't think, we just, in this, they're talking about raising it. God knows how that happens.
I don't know.
But, and that's, perhaps it's the insurers that want the boat raised to, again, try and blame human error or whatever. But my view so far is that that's not going to be the direction this goes in. So we'll have to wait and see. Yeah. Perhaps we'll do a follow-up, Dickie.
Yeah, sure.
We'll do a follow-up when the actual inquiry results are published. It'll be interesting.
It will be.
Otherwise, you just got to feel so dreadfully sorry for the people that this terrible accident happened to. Yeah, I do think, this is... I think, very few people will have considered that this kind of event at anchor could even have happened. And I do think it is very largely a case of being in the wrong place at the wrong time. I think the violence of this downburst situation and this weather event needs to be really more understood. Because it was taught... Early speculation was it was a tornado that hit it. I've seen a couple of tornadoes at sea. And, again, that people were saying, commentators were saying, oh, well, he should have known that was coming. Well, I've seen them twice in my entire, 50 years at sea. They're very rare events themselves. And the only reason I knew they were there was they happened in daylight and I could see them. Yeah, this was night time.
Yeah.
So even whatever, it's night time. And it's an unforecastable weather event. So, we haven't got crystal balls. We do have to live in the real world.
And it's looking like it wasn't a tornado anyway.
And you see, they're saying unequivocally it was this downburst event, and that's working the exact opposite way from a tornado. This is a massive velocity of wind coming down straight from the sky, and reports of 120 knots of wind straight down. I mean, Christ, that's incredible, as I said, I don't think there was any other skipper in the situation that existed. The conditions that existed prior to that would have done any different. Sad situation. Perhaps his biggest mistake was joining the boat in the first place.
Yeah, I mean, it is interesting that, because I don't know how much water is involved in a downburst. I've no idea, but presumably quite a lot.
I think it would be raining very heavily.
Yes. So those wells would have been.
There are drains, Dick. Let's be clear. There are drains in that area, And
even in those wells, they would have been.
yeah. So they would clear a certain amount of water.
I see. Okay.
But in the boat going right over,
Yes.
and the whole torrent of water pouring over the side, as would have happened if my speculation is correct, wouldn't be able to cope with that. And then, of course, as I've already said, sliding doors open, the whole lot starts. And of course, the more and more it goes over, the increasing the amount of water.
That's interesting. Why
it's not Niagara Falls that you're looking at.
No, I know, but I'm wondering why she would have gone over. I mean, it sounds this downburst presumably must have hit her slightly off centre then for her to go that way.
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. From what I understand of the downblast, it comes down and spreads. So if you're slightly to the edge of it,
right,
we're talking meters here.
Yes,
tens of meters.
Okay.
Bang! You cop it, because obviously the downblast is going to stop at the water.
Yes.
And then bang, and that with a 200-foot mast and a 73-degree angle of vanishing stability, showing that the boat is in any way very tender.
Yes.
Bang! She's on her side in minutes.
Well, she hung there apparently.
Yeah. Well, she would go. She's going to go over, and then all this water's pouring in, and now she's going to boom. She's gone. Yeah. That's yeah. Anyway, let's wait to hear the outcome.
Yes. Okay. Well, it will be interesting to see what the findings are eventually, and I'm sure we'll follow that up.
Yep. Okay.
Okay.
Thanks, Dick.